Lena Hart woke to her phone buzzing, the sound sharp against the storm outside. When she returned the call, a stranger answered with a whisper, "He's in the shower." The voice was not Marcus Reed's. Lena asked, "Who are you?" The reply was silence, then a click. Almost instantly, Marcus texted, "Late run. Battery low." The lie reeked of cheap perfume. Lena tried the number again, but voicemail played a cheerful greeting she had never heard. Marcus wrote again, "You're overthinking." The words cut. A second buzz came with a photo that appeared and vanished as if swallowed by shadows. Rain hammered the window, lightning flashing pale scars across the sky. Lena typed, "Where are you really?" Marcus replied, "Home soon, promise." That single word soon curled like smoke. Her phone buzzed once more, the same unknown number flashing then disappearing. Lena's chest tightened, her walls seemed to press inward. She felt keys turning in a lock that wasn't hers. The night cracked open with thunder, and truth slipped further into darkness. Morning crept into the kitchen with light too clean for the lies it carried. Lena Hart stirred coffee, her hands restless. Marcus Reed entered with a gym bag and a kiss that brushed her cheek without aim. Marcus said, "Late miles, new route." His words wore sneakers, but his eyes wore shadows. Lena asked about the voicemail, and his smile pulled tight, fabric stretched over a crack. Marcus said, "Spam. Probably a spoof." He reached into the fridge, back turned. Lena remembered the photo that had vanished, and the stranger's whisper in the dark. She typed Dylan Ross's name, then erased it before hitting send. Marcus stepped close, took her hand warm, and practiced. Marcus said, "You know me." The phrase rang like a charm, shiny but hollow. Lena stirred until the spoon tapped glass like a metronome of dread. She whispered, "I didn't sleep." Marcus shrugged, and the gesture closed a door inside her chest. At lunch, Lena Hart sat in a quiet cafe scrolling bank alerts. A boutique charge appeared, sharp as glass. Marcus Reed had claimed late meetings last week, yet flowers appeared without explanation. A text preview flashed then vanished like a ghost. Lena whispered, "We used to plan weekends on napkins." The memory collapsed under suspicion. She opened Marcus' shared calendar and found blocks labeled Run Club, neatly aligned with missing calls. The phrase looked like wallpaper covering cracks. She called Dylan Ross, but fear of sounding jealous cut her short at the first ring. Her pulse thudded like footsteps. The boutique charge glowed back, a wink she never welcomed. She saved the receipt photo and locked the phone, as though truth were a fragile animal she could not let escape. That evening, Lena Hart answered the door to a courier carrying a box with no return address. Inside rested a satin key fob and a receipt from the boutique, signed with a looping N. Moments later, a voicemail arrived. Naomi Park said, "Please tell Marcus I can't do this tonight." The voice belonged to the whisperer. Lena's chest tightened. She said, "Wrong number, but saved the message anyway." Marcus texted, "Running late, order in." The house looked staged, every frame a prop. Lena turned the key fob over in her hand, its weight foreign. Dylan Ross messaged, "You okay, need to talk?" She typed yes, then changed it to later. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving everything sharpened, every shadow unmistakable. Lena Hart drove to the river path where Marcus Reed claimed to run. Dusk painted the sky, bruised violet as street lamps flicked on. She waited by a mile marker, watching joggers pass in easy pairs. Marcus never arrived. Instead, a black sedan idled near the trailhead. Naomi Park stepped out, scanned the path, and checked a key fob identical to Lena's. Naomi muttered, "He should be here by now," her voice clipped by cold. Lena's world shifted, furniture rearranged without her consent. Her phone buzzed. Marcus said, "Just finished. Proud of my splits." The performance carried no sweat. Lena listened to the sedan's idle and the river's push, and the night seemed to hold its breath until she matched it. The following morning, Lena Hart stood before the mirror, mascara brush hovering, her reflection blurring with doubt. Marcus Reed hummed in the kitchen, carefree. She heard his phone vibrate against the counter, its rhythm too urgent. She stepped closer, saw Naomi Park's name flash and vanish. Marcus called out, "Coffee's ready." His tone was honey, but the edges carried steel. Lena forced her voice even, asking, "Running again today?" Marcus replied, "Every day. Discipline makes me." His smile arrived late, like a rehearsed line. She felt the truth humming under his skin. Dylan Ross texted, "You free tonight?" Her thumb lingered, then locked the screen. The mirror framed two versions of her, one who believed, one who knew. The air smelled of roasted beans and quiet betrayal. Marcus stepped into the room, lips pressed to her hair. He said, "Stop worrying." She nodded, but inside, a storm gathered, waiting for release. At work, Lena Hart sat at her desk, the office hum around her like static. She scrolled Marcus Reed's social feed, noting perfect smiles and captions of devotion. None matched the hollow words she heard. She whispered, "Who are you showing this to?" Her inbox pinged with an anonymous message, "He isn't who you think." A link trailed behind, leading to photos of Marcus at a rooftop bar, Naomi Park beside him, laughter caught mid-burst. Lena's pulse hammered. Dylan Ross stopped by her desk, eyes kind. Dylan said, "You look pale, want air?" Lena shook her head, swallowing the image. She pressed the browser closed, but the echo of Naomi's laughter stayed. Her reflection in the monitor looked older, tired. Marcus texted, "Big meeting, wish me luck." She replied, "Good luck," fingers stiff, the words heavy with silent knowledge. The office buzzed on, but her world tilted. That night, Lena Hart sat across from Marcus Reed at the dining table, candles flickering low. He poured wine with a steady hand, but his eyes darted each time his phone buzzed. She said, "You're distracted." Marcus laughed softly, saying, "Deadlines, nothing else." The lie wore charm like cologne. She slid the boutique receipt across the table. His jaw tightened, but he forced a grin. Marcus said, "Gift for you," surprise ruined. Lena studied his face, every twitch a confession. The candlelight painted them as strangers sharing a table. Her fork scraped the plate, sharp against silence. She whispered, "Then why Naomi called you last night?" His glass froze midway, then lowered. He said, "Coworker, nothing more." The pause betrayed him. The room thickened with smoke of unsaid truths. Outside, wind rattled the windows, as if urging her not to believe. Later, Lena Hart walked with Dylan Ross along a quiet street, autumn leaves crunching. She confessed in broken pieces, "He lies. I hear it in every word." Dylan said, "You don't deserve this storm." His eyes carried worry deeper than friendship. She said, "I don't know what's true anymore." Dylan reached for her shoulder, grounding her. He added, "Sometimes we protect lies because we're afraid of endings." Lena's eyes filled, but she looked away, afraid of the truth behind his comfort. The air smelled of rain, the pavement still wet. Every shadow felt like Marcus watching. Dylan said, "I'll be here whenever you're ready." The words sank into her chest, heavy but steady. For the first time, she allowed silence to hold her, even if her heart trembled against it. Back home, Lena Hart found Marcus Reed asleep on the couch, phone loose in his hand. She lifted it carefully, screen lighting her face. A message glowed. Naomi Park said, "Tomorrow, same place." Lena's stomach dropped, but she saved the screenshot quietly. Marcus stirred, murmuring her name. She whispered, "Rest easy," though fury burned beneath her calm. She covered him with a blanket, hands shaking. Every beat of his chest beneath the fabric sounded like a ticking clock. The walls held their secrets, but Lena felt them pressing closer. She stood by the window, city lights sharp against glass, and promised herself she would uncover every truth, no matter how sharp. The night stretched long, Her reflection split between betrayal and resolve. Dawn arrived gray, and Lena Hart mapped the address from Naomi Park's text, hands steady by force. Marcus Reed brewed coffee and asked, "Plans today?" Lena said, "Errands." The word hit a blade. Marcus smiled thinly, "Call me if you need." The kettle hissed like warning. Lena packed a notebook, a spare phone, and a resolve that felt newly forged. She replayed the rooftop photos and the vanished preview until they cut clean. Dylan Ross texted, "I can drive." She typed, "Not yet," then deleted the draft. Marcus brushed her shoulder and added, "We are fine." The sentence rang like tin. Outside, light slid across wet streets, revealing what night concealed. Lena stepped into it and promised herself she would not blink first. The day opened like a sealed envelope, edges sharp and inviting blood. The boutique's bell chimed, and Lena Hart moved through mirrors that made lies multiply. A clerk greeted warmly, but Lena kept to the displays, tracing fabrics that matched the receipt. She murmured, "Satin key fob, custom emboss." The clerk nodded, "Popular gift." A signature book rested near the till, pages fluttering under the air vent. Lena said, "Naomi Park picked up last week?" The clerk hesitated, then offered, "Paid by Marcus Reed. Delivery option failed." Paper proved what text implied. Lena photographed the ledger, Hart a drum. Her phone buzzed. Marcus wrote, "Lunch later?" She answered, "Busy." The word stood like a locked door. A window reflected Lena back, smaller than she felt, yet harder too. She turned away with evidence tucked close, a new weight in her bag and spine. Lena Hart followed the map to a rooftop bar where chairs still held the imprint of night. Noon sun washed the skyline, too honest for secrets. She chose a corner table and watched reflections in the glass railing. Dylan Ross arrived uninvited and said, "You should not be alone." Lena exhaled, then nodded once. Dylan placed a small recorder on the table and added, "For your truth, not mine." Footsteps clicked. Naomi Park appeared, scanning for someone who was not there. Lena said, "Tell me how long." Naomi studied Lena's face, then answered, "Long enough to learn he lies by habit." Wind cut between them like a verdict. Lena asked, "Does he promise you soon?" Naomi looked down and whispered, "Always." The word cracked something simple and irreparable. Afternoon shadows stretched as Lena Hart and Dylan Ross sat in his car outside a sleek condo tower. Marcus Reed's calendar showed Run Club, but the lobby camera fed a different story. Marcus entered with flowers and a box sized for promises. Dylan said, "This is proof." Lena answered, "This is pattern." They watched the elevator numbers climb like a heartbeat. A call arrived from Marcus, cheerful. Marcus said, "You'll love dinner tonight." Lena replied, "I'm working late." Her voice did not shake. The elevator descended empty minutes later, and Marcus reappeared without the box. He laughed with the doorman and stepped into sunlight that did not belong to him. Dylan said, "You deserve better than this theater." Lena stared through the windshield and said, "I deserve the end of it." Evening gathered, and Lena Hart arranged photos, receipts, and timestamps across the dining table like a courtroom. Each piece fit the same outline, a life sketched twice. Marcus Reed walked in with takeout, and a grin that slid when he saw the evidence. Marcus said, "You're making stories." Lena answered, "I kept the truth you threw away." He reached for a photo, then stopped, palms open. Marcus said, "It is complicated." Lena said, "Complicated is a word that hides simple harm." The room held its breath. Dylan Ross's recorder lay silent, but ready. Marcus tried another smile and offered, "Tomorrow we reset." Lena stood straighter and said, "Tomorrow ends what you started tonight." The takeout cooled while resolve burned hotter. Rain returned as Lena Hart drove to Naomi Park's apartment, windshield wipers beating like a clock. She rehearsed questions, but none fit the weight in her chest. Naomi opened the door, eyes tired but unflinching. Naomi said, I knew you would come. Lena stepped inside, silence thick as smoke. Photos lined the wall, Marcus Reed in half of them, his smile rehearsed for 2 lives. Lena whispered, How long did you believe him? Naomi answered, Until I heard your name. The words pierced with finality. Lena looked around, realizing Naomi's apartment was furnished with promises stolen from her own. Naomi said, He told me you were gone. Lena's pulse shook the air. She sat across from her, their reflections doubled in the window. 2 lives intertwined by the same lie, now bound by truth neither wanted. Lena Hart and Naomi Park sat at a small table, coffee untouched. Naomi slid her phone across, messages glowing like open wounds. Marcus Reed wrote, Can't stay tonight, followed by She suspects nothing. Lena read every word, bile rising. Naomi whispered, He plays us both. Lena said, He plays himself. Her hands shook, but her voice steadied. Dylan Ross's name flashed on her screen, another offer of escape she could not yet take. Naomi leaned closer and said, He promised me forever. Lena replied, He promised me the same. Their eyes locked, not as rivals, but as survivors of the same fire. Outside, thunder rolled, as though the world echoed their storm. Naomi's tears slid quietly. Lena's jaw set harder. The air smelled of betrayal and rain-soaked asphalt, their silence carrying more weight than speech. Later, Dylan Ross met Lena Hart outside the apartment. He said, You don't have to face him alone. Lena shook her head, answering, I need to hear him lie to my face. Dylan clenched his fists, gaze heavy with helplessness. Lena walked ahead, her steps echoing on wet pavement. The city moved around them, unaware of the storm building between 3 lives. Dylan said, If he hurts you, I won't stay silent. Lena paused, turned slightly, and whispered, He already has. The weight of her words pressed against the air, sharper than the chill. Dylan followed at a distance, his shadow stretched beside hers. Cars hissed through puddles, neon signs blinked with indifference. Every sound sharpened the silence inside Lena's chest, a silence that screamed louder than words. Marcus Reed arrived at a cafe for their planned lunch, unaware of the ambush. Lena Hart sat waiting, her notebook closed, Dylan Ross nearby but silent. Marcus smiled, sliding into the seat. He said, Missed you this morning. Lena studied him, then asked, Did Naomi hear the same line? His grin faltered, glass shattering in his eyes. He said, She's confused. Lena pressed, And I'm blind? The table shook under her hand. Dylan leaned forward, voice low, We saw you. Marcus's charm collapsed, anger bleeding through. He said, You don't understand. Lena whispered, I understand enough. The cafe hummed with life, unaware of the explosion at their table. Rain tapped the glass, a metronome counting down. Marcus gripped his cup, knuckles white, silence louder than his excuses. The confrontation spilled outside, where storm clouds bruised the sky. Marcus Reed grabbed Lena Hart's arm, desperate. He said, You're all I have. She pulled free, voice sharp. You had me, but you wanted more. Naomi Park appeared, her eyes wide, voice breaking. He told me she was gone. The truth bared itself raw, 3 lives standing in the storm. Dylan Ross stepped closer, shielding Lena, his jaw set. Marcus shouted, I was protecting both of you. Lena answered coldly, You were protecting yourself. Silence followed, heavy and final. Thunder cracked overhead, as if sealing the moment. Marcus looked between them, charm drained to dust. Lena's breath slowed, the storm within her aligning with the one above. For the first time she felt clarity sharper than pain. Morning thinned the storm, and Lena Hart spread documents across Naomi Park's table like a map of betrayal. Bank transfers repeated to a trust called Cole Family Trust. Amounts staggered like footsteps. Naomi said, He told me bonuses were delayed. Lena answered, He was paying another life. A folder held a lease for a townhouse under Evan Cole. The photo of Marcus Reed smiling in grayscale. Naomi whispered, Evan was a client, not Marcus. The lie split clean in her mouth. Dylan Ross called, voice steady. County records confirmed the alias. Lena closed her eyes, seeing two signatures shaped by the same hand. Naomi said, there is a prenup draft with my name. The word prenup burned like ice. Lena replied, he planned a future while dividing the present. Outside, the rain paused, as if listening. Inside, the room exhaled decades in a minute. Lena Hart and Dylan Ross followed the paper trail to a storage facility that hummed with fluorescent quiet. A clerk scanned a license and said, unit belongs to Evan Cole. The lock clicked, and the door rolled like a curtain. Inside, duplicate suits matched Marcus Reed's style, tags pinned with dates. Dylan said, he staged alibis by wardrobe. Shelves held burner phones, each labeled with cities like trophies. Lena found a shoebox of hotel key cards, a satin ribbon coiled on top. She said, he kept souvenirs of the lie. A man from the corridor paused and nodded. Evan comes late, never talks. The name echoed like a rehearsal. Dylan photographed everything, methodical. Lena touched a set of keys, stamped with a townhouse address, and the room tilted but did not fall. At dusk, Lena Hart entered a charity gala where glass walls reflected a city that loved polished stories. Naomi Park walked beside her, jaw set. Marcus Reed crossed the lobby in a tux, badge reading Evan Cole, smile bright as flash paper. Lena said, he wears the mask in daylight. Naomi replied, he thinks daylight forgives. Investors laughed at practiced jokes, while his phone glowed with hidden calendars. Dylan Ross slipped programs into Lena's hand, pointing at a donor list tied to the trust. He said, follow the money, not the applause. Marcus caught sight of them, hesitation halting the smile for a heartbeat. The pause was proof, small and enormous. Lena felt the room hush inside her, the orchestra tuning to a new key. Naomi breathed, now he sees us seeing him. In a side corridor, silence pooled between portraits of donors. Marcus Reed said, Evan protects clients. Lena Hart answered, Evan protects Marcus. Naomi Park stepped closer, voice even, you promised forever with a fake name. Marcus spread his hands, softening his tone. This is business, nothing personal. Dylan Ross said, fraud wears good fabric too. Marcus's jaw set, then loosened, the charm shifting like light. He said, I was going to explain after the quarter. Lena replied, you explained with transfers and keys. Naomi added, you explained with me. The corridor clock ticked, steady and unforgiving. Marcus said, no one needs to get hurt. Lena looked past him at the exit sign and felt the hallway shorten to a single choice. Later, the townhouse door recognized the stamped key, and the lock yielded like a secret that was tired. Lena Hart stepped into a room, arranged with 2 lives in careful layers. A framed photo showed Marcus Reed as Evan Cole beside a real estate agent, date stamped last year. Naomi Park opened a drawer and found a bank envelope marked education, crisp bills folded around a note that read, Avery's Lessons. Dylan Ross said, child support or cover story. The word child hung, but did not land. Lena found a desk folder with a ring appraisal made out to Naomi, and a second appraisal with no name. She said, 2 futures priced by Karat. Footsteps echoed in the stairwell, quick and closing. Dylan whispered, we are not alone. Lena gathered the folder, and the wound widened into a doorway no one could close. The townhouse doors slammed open, and Marcus Reed entered, eyes burning as though the walls themselves betrayed him. Lena Hart stood tall, folder in hand, her silence sharper than words. Marcus said, you had no right. Naomi Park stepped forward, voice steady, we had every right to know. Dylan Ross positioned himself near the exit, jaw set, recorder hidden in his palm. Marcus's laughter cracked, hollow. You think this is betrayal? This is survival. Lena answered. Survival doesn't require two names. Thunder shook the windows, echoing the weight of the moment. Naomi whispered, you built two homes, and called them both forever. Marcus's mask dropped, rage replacing charm. His fist slammed the table, scattering papers like broken promises. The confrontation had no retreat, only collision. Marcus Reed paced like a caged animal, his voice a weapon. He said, you think you can corner me with scraps of paper? Lena Hart spread the receipts wider, her tone calm. Scraps are enough to unravel you. Naomi Park pulled out the prenup draft, sliding it across the table. Naomi said, you called this a promise. It was always a contract. Marcus's eyes narrowed, fury pulsing under his skin. Dylan Ross pressed record, his voice firm. The truth is enough for a jury. Marcus smirked, leaning close to Lena, whispering, no jury will see what I don't allow. Lena met his eyes, unflinching. Everyone sees now, Marcus, she said, her voice steady. The storm outside became a mirror for the storm inside. The shouting cracked open silence, neighbors' footsteps faint above. Marcus Reed shouted, you needed me. Lena Hart shot back, I needed honesty. Naomi Park trembled but lifted her chin, voice cutting, you used me as a shadow. Marcus turned to Dylan Ross, sneering, you want her, don't you? Dylan's silence answered enough, his stance protective but steady. Marcus laughed bitterly. Perfect. Betrayal for betrayal. Lena's hand shook, but she placed the key fob on the table, saying, this is the door you never deserve. Marcus's face broke into desperation, rage collapsing into fear. He whispered, don't leave me with nothing. Lena's reply was cold, final. You already built nothing. The air felt heavier, the storm inside now unbearable. Marcus Reed lunged forward, grabbing the folder, papers tearing in his hands. Dylan Ross stepped in, blocking him, voice sharp, enough. Marcus snarled, you're not part of this. Dylan said, I am if she bleeds. Lena Hart stood still, her calm now colder than his rage. She whispered, every lie tears itself apart. You don't need our help to collapse. Naomi Park pulled her phone, hands shaking. Police will listen to this. Marcus froze, eyes darting, charm gone, desperation, raw. For a second, silence reigned, broken only by the storm hammering glass. Lena stepped closer, her voice steady. We all see you now, Marcus. Not even, not rare, just common lies. His shoulders sagged under the weight of the truth he could not smother. The storm reached its peak as Marcus Reed collapsed into a chair, face buried in his hands. Lena Hart said, this is the end of your stage. Naomi Park dropped the prenup draft onto his lap, voice cutting, your forever is paper. Dylan Ross stopped the recorder, his nod quiet but resolute. Marcus whispered, you'll regret this. Lena stepped toward the window, rain streaking down, her reflection strong against glass. She said, I regret nothing but believing you. The thunder outside roared like an answer. Naomi's tears finally fell, but her eyes held relief more than grief. Dylan placed a hand on Lena's shoulder, steady, supportive. The storm outside began to thin, but the wreckage inside promised no quick clearing. The morning after the storm, Lena Hart packed a single suitcase, the townhouse keys left on the counter like discarded lies. Marcus Reed's chair sat empty, his shadow gone but not forgotten. Naomi Park hugged Lena briefly, whispering, we survived him, not because of him. Dylan Ross loaded the trunk, his silence steady, his presence an anchor. Lena said softly, it ends here. The air smelled of wet earth, the city washed clean. She looked once more at the house where promises unraveled, then shut the trunk with finality. The door behind them did not matter anymore. By noon, Lena Hart signed documents at the police station, evidence folders stacked between her and the officer. Naomi Park sat beside her, calm but pale, whispering answers when asked. Dylan Ross leaned against the wall, arms folded, recorder now logged as proof. Marcus Reed's name on the form felt like both closure and wound. Lena pressed her signature hard, each letter a strike. She whispered, "He doesn't own my silence anymore." Naomi squeezed her hand, saying, "He never did." Outside, sirens wailed faintly, a song of endings and beginnings. That evening, Lena Hart sat at a riverside bench, the same path where Marcus once claimed to run. Water shimmered under the fading sun, golden and merciless. Dylan Ross joined her quietly, no words needed. She said, "Every lie was common, but I believed it was rare." Her voice held both regret and steel. Dylan replied softly, "You're stronger for seeing it." Silence stretched, but it carried healing. Lena's reflection rippled in the river, split yet whole. The air smelled of autumn leaves, and for the first time in weeks, her chest loosened. At nightfall, Lena Hart returned to her apartment, its silence now a refuge instead of a cage. She unpacked the suitcase slowly, one item at a time, as if reclaiming her life piece by piece. Naomi Park called, her voice lighter. "I'm free too." Lena smiled faintly, replying, "We both are." She set the key fob on the counter, not as a burden but as proof of survival. Outside, the city hummed with its endless stories, none louder than her own. She whispered to herself, "I am not broken." The room, for the first time, felt hers again. Days later, Lena Hart stood at the courthouse steps, Naomi Park at her side, Dylan Ross close behind. The case would move forward, Marcus Reed's double life no longer hidden. Reporters buzzed nearby, but Lena ignored them. She whispered, "This isn't his story anymore." Naomi nodded, tears bright but hopeful. Dylan placed a steadying hand on Lena's shoulder. As they walked inside, thunderclouds gathered in the distance, but sunlight cut through above them. The final blow had already landed. The lie was gone, the truth unshaken. Lena breathed deeply, the weight gone, and stepped forward into her own future.